And President John Dramani Mahama is asking African leaders to prioritize women and young people in leadership. And he wants that to be very important because he stresses that the importance of having them in advancing Africa's progress is key. While speaking at a high-level retreat on African Union institutional reforms held at Kenya's State House in Nairobi, President John Dramani Mahama also said that over-reliance on foreign partners comprises and compromises African Union's independence. Presidential Affairs correspondent Maxwell Akpokwa has more in this report.
President John Mahama was welcomed to Kenya's State House with the Ghana national anthem as he joined Kenya's president and other African leaders at the high-level African Union institutional reforms retreat. In his speech, President John Mahama urged African leaders to prioritize the inclusion of women and young people in leadership roles. He stressed the importance of having them in advancing Africa's progress.
Africa's future lies in its youth. Over 60% of our population is under the age of 25, and yet their voices are largely absent in policymaking. We must institutionalize frameworks that empower our young people and our women to lead at all levels of governance. And I'm happy to report that in the last election, for the first time in Ghana's history, we elected a woman as our vice president. The energy of our youth, creativity, and vision are the drivers of the Africa that we all seek to build.
President Mahama said the over-reliance on foreign partners compromises African Union's independence. He said the AU should fast-track efforts towards financial independence.
Your Excellencies, one of the fundamental pillars of reform is AU's financial autonomy. The over-reliance on external partners for funding compromises the organization's independence and ability to set its own agenda. The implementation of the Kigali decision on financing the Union must be expedited. A self-reliant African Union is not just a vision we have, it is an imperative to achieve.
President Mahama also called on the African Union to prioritize funding for the African Union Standby Force to strengthen its ability to respond to crises and conflicts across the continent, and the critical role of the force in addressing pressing challenges, including the growing threat of terrorism.
Your Excellencies, without peace, there can be no development. The AU must strengthen its capacity to prevent, mediate, and resolve conflicts. This includes adequately resourcing the African Standby Force and leveraging partnerships to address emergency threats such as terrorism, cybercrime, and climate-induced displacements. Indeed, this is very important for us, especially in West Africa, considering the challenge we face from terrorism.
Kenya's president, who is a champion of the African Union institutional reforms, raised concerns about rising terrorism in Africa and called for joint efforts to deal with it.
It is absolutely necessary at this point in time for Africa Union to reimagine, rethink, reorganize our peace and security architecture. As things stand today, Africa is a big theater of conflict and, unfortunately, terrorism. And our response has been uncoordinated, under-resourced, and not very well planned. Therefore, we have recommended that a high-level panel interrogate our peace and security infrastructure, including the envoys across the continent, the infrastructure around the Africa Union Commission,